I you shouldn't ever have to create printer spreads on your own, by and large. I did put. There are ways to do it. I mean, my whole career, I've actually, anytime I ever need to mock something up, I reorganize these books in printer spreads. And I do have one printer, oddly enough, that makes me do it, but generally they shouldn't ask you to do it. There's the printers. Adjusting the order of the pages is referred to as imposition, as imposing the document, where you impose one page over another. And printers they've got software specialized for that, for the most part. If you ever need, and this might be worth holding on to, if you ever need to know, though, how to set up a document in printer spreads, let's see. Let me find it. I did upload last week when I thought I was going to do this. Under content, where did I put it? In class material. No. Under helpful content, there is a PDF file that shows how this actually works. So for an 8-page booklet, this is how they get set up. And actually, I'll show you this here in a moment. But your front cover and your back cover are always side by side on your first sheet. And on the flip side of your first sheet are pages 2 and page 7. So that's your inside front cover and your inside back cover. And this is an 8-page document. The center spread is pages 4 and 5. But then the back side of that are pages 6 and pages 3. That's the way they get. So then when you print this out and you duplex the pages, it'd go on, if this is an 8.5 by 11 book, you'd do it to an 11 by 17 or a 12 by 18 sheet. They would go front to back, and then they'd go front to back, and then after you trim them out, you put them together and you fold them, you end up with this. I think. And I haven't trimmed this down at all yet, but you can pass it down through. This is how those pages have to come out, page by page. So this is one of the example documents. And if you actually pull those pages apart, you'll see how they're separated. But that's how they come out, because you've got to be able to fold them over and have everything, be able to read it the way it's intended to be read. I'm not making you do this. I do know there are a couple of, there's at least one other class that they actually have to print out their booklets for the final, but to be honest with you, I'd rather focus on the digital aspect than the mock-up aspect of things. So, plus, I did do it one time, and I found that it created just a lot of confusion on the last day of class. And, you know how touchy the printers can be sometimes anyway with getting stuff set up right. So I'm not really going to make you do that part. But you'll see how those, if you separate those pages, you can kind of see how those go together. But what you can do is, so feel free to take this if you want to hold on to this document, it does show you how to set those up. I had to do it this way for years, but now InDesign actually has a decent feature that allows you to print those out on your own, and which is why I have the other document up and open. So this is still in its reader spreads, the way you're creating your documents. But it does have a print booklet feature here at the very bottom of the menu. And if we select that, this is a variation of the regular print dialog. And what's important about this is that you know the size of the finished size of your document, which is 8.5 by 11, and know that when you print it out, I mean, basically each sheet is going to be 17 inches wide by 11 inches tall. That's, you know, two 8.5 by 11 side by side. If your document has bleed on it, then you have to go on a larger sheet like that is, that you're passing around, and you've got to print it out with crop marks, trim it out, and then fold it and put it together. But at least this print booklet dialog will do an awful lot of this for you. It just leaves you with the manual work to do of cutting things out if you need to. So, and the way this works is, this is a default view of it. And if we come over here and take a look at preview, you'll see that, and I've already got this set up, so, but you'll see that it actually arranges each of your pages, so long as they're set up as reader spreads, side by side, the way we are, it'll actually impose those pages for you so that you can take that, print it out, and then, bless you, and then if you need to trim it out because it bleeds, and you trim it out, put them together, you fold them, and you staple them across the middle. So it'll actually set all that up for you. But as far as the process goes, it goes something like this. So you have to be on a network with a printer that's big enough to print your document to start with. So remember, you got to keep in mind the flat page size. In printing, the finished folded version of a booklet is referred to as its trim size. That's the finished size. It's an 8.5 by 11 booklet. No, sorry, that's its finished size. I knew I'd turn those two around. That's its finished size. It's folded, stapled, it's finished. It's an 8.5 by 11 book. Its trim size is actually its flat version. So if you open that out, its trim size is 17 inches by 11 inches. So you've always got to know what that overall trim size is, because you've got to be on a network with a printer big enough to print all that out. So I've already got this set up right, but if I go into my setup and I click on my print settings, I can select, this is the color printer back in 151. And let's see, that's all okay. If I look at setup, in this particular case, the content bleeds off the edges, so the paper size is actually what's referred to as tabloid over, which is a 12 by 18 sheet. And I've got to have all of my crop marks on it so I know where to trim it. When you look at that, if you notice the little crop marks in the corner of the page, that tells you where to trim. So we want to make sure we've got our crop marks turned on. We're using our bleed settings, because remember, we got to pull our bleed out beyond the trim edge if it's going to bleed off, go to the edge of the page. And then the other thing we need to do after we've got all those set up right is go to our print dialog and make sure that we turn on double-sided, and I don't know why, you've got to do this twice. And then scroll down through here to printer options, open it up, fiery features, and we're going to duplex it top to top. This is the color, these are the color copier settings though for back in 151. And over there, if you're going to do a tab extra, you've got to ask them to put it in the bypass tray. There's a bypass, they don't keep that loaded up normally. So, let's say okay. And when you've got it all set up, you hit print and it outputs the document, just like the one you looked at that I passed around. But if you need to print out the document, that's the way you go about doing it. If your document doesn't have any bleed on it and it's an 8.5 by 11 finish, you really only have to print to an 17 by 11 sheet, a tabloid sheet, because nothing's going to go off the edges, you know. But those are things you kind of need to look at. I at least wanted to show it to you. I've kind of waffled back and forth. I decided I'm not going to make you guys print these out. I'd rather you have a kick-ass digital file than worrying about whether you get something printed out right or not, for right now anyway. So, but just know that this print booklet feature, sooner or later, you're probably going to need it. I thought about teaching you how to actually impose pages yourselves, but again, printers generally do that themselves, and it can be kind of confusing. And it's even worse than when you go to print it and you don't have it right. It's just, costs you money. So, but, that's generally how we do that. It's from our original file, we'll go File, Print Booklet. Usually we got to fudge with the preview a little bit, make sure we get things turned correctly. But 2-up saddle stitch is what we're doing. You go into printer settings. Setup, change your paper size. And you always want to center the spreads inside of the sheet. If we change this to upper left, somewhere here, there's a preview that's going to show us not what we want. You always want it to be centered, either way. Centered. I just do crop marks so I don't get confused as to which ones to cut on. And you've got to go into the printer settings. Printer options, fiery features, and select duplex top to top. It's off by default. That makes sure that it orients correctly whenever you print. Say okay. And when you're finished, you just say print, which I'm not going to do right now. Eek. So, and I did use this document purposefully because it's a very good example of what this assignment will look like when you're done, or roughly what it'll look like. So, all right. Do you understand table of contents for the most part? Do it a couple of times. It's